marketing calendar 1, 2, 3, how to ensure your marketing calendar kicks ass. First, we really need to discuss why do we have a marketing calendar. And this is so that we have a tactical plan. This, honestly, is our main synergy with OGX. The marketing calendar is really the main working point and the point that you need to talk to your VP OGX about the most. And it helps us to ensure that we are target marketing, that we're aligning our channels, that we're ensuring physical marketing happens, and that we're telling our OGX sales team when, where, who to promote to, and what to say and sell. This is really important. The marketing calendar is the answer of what should they be doing when they're going to do physical marketing. So we really need to discuss what are the key pieces of a good marketing calendar. The main components, first is flow. This might be something new that you haven't heard about, and we're going to be talking a lot about it today. But basically the flow is that it must be clear what the flow of activities is throughout the week. We don't want your marketing calendar just to show just one day. You really need to understand and be able to visibly see how it balances the channels and messaging throughout the month. The second main component is all of the details. It must include these fields for each activity. It's very important that you have this in your marketing calendar. Each activity needs to know who it's targeting, what to sell, that means which opportunity, which country, which subproduct or SDG, the date and time of that activity, and the location. Lastly, the description about anything they need to know about it, who's responsible, etc. These things are all required to have a really awesome marketing calendar, and it needs to have these fields for each activity. The last component is tracking. It must be able to track number of activities planned monthly and weekly by channel. So you need to know how many tabling activities are happening this month or how many tabling activities are happening this week. The same for each of the channels. It also needs to be able to calculate percent of marketing calendar completed, aka it needs to check off that an activity was done, and you should be able to see how many were done versus how many were planned. You might be asking, but why? Why do I need all of those things? First, the reason you need the flow is it's important to understand where and what your customer will be seeing throughout the week. Remember that our leads might see us more than once a week. You don't want them to see conflicting messages. So that's why you really need to have and ensure that your marketing calendar shows a flow. For the details section, why were all of those things needed? If your calendar lacks these fields, OGX members will just show up to events and sell generalized versions of the product. We know that target marketing is effective, so these fields are necessary to have to ensure that happens. Without it, your members are just going to show up and say, go abroad. They don't know exactly what to be selling and who to be targeting to. And for tracking, why it's so important is the marketing calendar is literally your JD. This is a huge portion of it, and it's how you're tracked. So the calendar has to be able to track the plan and achieve of the physical activities because you are responsible for generating opens, aka activities have to happen for you to achieve your goals. And that's why it's so important that your marketing calendar has a tracking feature to it. So let's get to the 1, 2, 3. I really wanted to bring this to you guys. It's a really important quote, and basically it's called the Rule of 7. It's a marketing principle that states that your prospects need to come across your offer at least 7 times before they really notice it and start to take action. This is something that companies use industry-wide, and we need to be a part of it as well. So I'm going to be bringing this to you, and how can you incorporate this in your marketing calendar? Remember when we talked about flow before? Well, what if we just looked at your week flow for just this week? We need to think about how we can get our customer to see us at least 3 times physically throughout our activities. So we're going to be going through a couple of examples of how you can do this. First, what if you had an email pushing an info session on Sunday? And then you tabled on Monday and Tuesday. And so the people that got the email might see you tabling on campus. So that's number 2. And then 3, you might show up in a class shout directing them to the info session. But what if the people that saw you at tabling you didn't do a class out for them? Well, then you're going to flyer everywhere for this info session as well. And the last part is then have the info session. So you can see from this how it all flows into getting people to this info session. And you can kind of see the 1, 2, 3 of where would your customer see Isaac at least 3 times physically throughout this week. Here's another example. Maybe you do flyering for an SDG on Sunday. And then you aim to have class shouts targeting that SDG in Argentina on Monday and Tuesday. And then you do a tabling that really shows all the things of Argentina on Wednesday. And then you send out a mass email to all those class outs on Thursday. And then you do cold calls, and with the OGX team, you tell them to do cold calls and push consultancy meetings at the end of that week. The main things to note from this one is you can see how it starts more generally and wide at the beginning of the week and becomes more focused and drifts into conversion events at the end of the week. And you can see how this week flows from reaching your whole campus down until you get to the people that are most likely to approve. So these are two really good examples of how you can look at the flow for that week. I also have an example of an unsuccessful flow. This one might be you just did a flyering on Monday, and you had an info session on Wednesday, and a tabling on Thursday, and you repeated this routine weekly. What if this was your flow? Well, the problem with this is that there's not enough events here because the people that see the flyer might not come to that info session, and then they might only see you at tabling, and that's only 2 times, or they didn't see the flyer or the info sessions and only saw the tabling, and that's only 1 time. And the worst part is that there's no connection between these events. So you need to have something that's connecting them. What message are they saying or who are they targeting? There needs to be a connection point. So if this is what you are doing currently, take note now and make the changes. You're in control of your calendar, so fix it. It's that simple. And things to remember with this flow, as this example I showed above, just remember you need to have enough opportunities for your customer to see your brand at least 3 times. And it's okay to have some activities randomly throughout the week. Those add value as well because it's more chances for people to see you. But it's also helpful to plan out when you would most likely like to have them. So maybe saying things to the OGX team that on Wednesday and Thursday it's really good for us to aim to have clash outs on those days in the middle of the week because we're having an info session on Friday. And communicating that. But it's also okay to have things randomly. You might be thinking, but what about the other 4 times? Well, there's more than physical attraction, and you're not in this alone. Remember that I'm here too. The other 4 times might come from getting an email after tabling, OGX contacting opens. That's also a time they see you. Consultancy meetings are also a time that they see Isaac. And the national digital channels, they might see it on their Facebook or their Instagram after seeing your tabling. And then that's another time that they saw Isaac. It makes them that much more likely to buy our product. And last is the best one of all. If you can get more people to be seeing Isaac, more people will be talking about Isaac, and that counts again as another time that they saw Isaac. So these are the other ways that you can equal the 7 times that they need to see Isaac before they buy our product. So let's recap. Why do we have this calendar? It's to synergize with OGX, to align our channels, and to ensure physical marketing happens. The second is what should be in the calendar. Flow, details, tracking. Including these aspects ensures a quality calendar. And the last is the 1, 2, 3. The calendar helps cover that our customer sees our brand at least 3 times physically. Make sure it flows. There's enough events each week. The events connect to each other. Those things are all need to be had in your calendar for every single week. And the last thing that I want to leave you with is remember it's okay to not have a perfect calendar right away. It's your first week on the job. So be observant, take notes, track the data, and make the necessary changes for the next month. You got this.